Welcome to Grandpa's Gentle Sleep Stories. If tonight your mind feels a little too busy, a little too awake, you're in the right place. You don't need to quiet your thoughts. You don't need to sort them out. These stories are here to sit beside you while your thinking slowly runs out of steam. So get comfortable. There's nothing to figure out as the story begins. They are not racing toward tomorrow or replaying every small detail of the day. Instead, they feel heavy. Slow. Worn. You can sense it immediately. Is tired of moving. Each thought arrives with less energy than before, as though it has already traveled too far. You lie there quietly, noticing the weight. Your body feels ready for rest. Your shoulders soften into the mattress. Your hands rest gently at your sides. The room holds a steady darkness, and the air feels calm and still. But the mind continues. Not quickly, just steadily. A small thought drifts through, not urgent enough to matter, but present enough to notice. It feels like something that has been carried all day. Though not important. It lingers longer than it needs to. Then another follows. Not sharper. Just heavier. You may begin to recognize that this is not restlessness. It is not anxiety. It is simply fatigue of the mind. The kind that comes from thinking for too many hours without pause. The mind has been active all day, making decisions. Even in quiet moments, it continued working quietly beneath the surface. And now, in the stillness of night, it does not know how to stop. Not because it wants to continue, but because it has been trained to. Your breathing moves slowly beneath this. Awareness. Inhale. Exhale. The exhale feels longer tonight. Not forced, just natural. The body seems to understand that it is time to slow. The mind, however, moves like something still finishing its shift. Another thought appears. It is not dramatic. It does not demand resolution. It simply exists. You do not need to solve it. You do not need to analyze it. You only notice its weight. It feels thicker than usual, as if each idea carries more gravity than it should. Even simple reflections feel dense. This is what happens when thinking becomes constant. It stops feeling sharp and starts feeling heavy. Your eyelids grow warmer. Your face relaxes. The mattress supports you completely. Still, the mind continues. It's slow movement. You may notice how thoughts tonight do not leap from one topic to another. They move in a straight line, slowly, as if walking uphill. There is effort in them, not urgency. Just effort. And perhaps the effort is what feels exhausting. Another breath flows in. Another breath flows out. Your chest rises and falls gently beneath the blanket. The rhythm is steady and reassuring. The thoughts continue, but softer now. They no longer try to branch into new directions. They simply repeat faint impressions of what has already been thought earlier today. It is as though the mind is finishing its last quiet tasks before allowing itself to rest. You do not interrupt it. You do not push it away. You simply allow it to move at its tired pace. The room remains silent. The darkness steady. Nothing new enters your awareness. Without new input, the thoughts begin to thin slightly. They still appear, but they feel less substantial, less convincing. The weight shifts. It becomes less about what you are thinking, and more about how tired you are of thinking. And that tiredness is not something to fight. It is something to acknowledge. You have been thinking all day. It makes sense that your mind feels worn. Another thought drifts in, softer than before. It barely completes itself Before fading, your breathing remains, more grounded in stillness. The mind still moves, but it feels less determined. The effort behind each thought grows smaller. Perhaps you notice that the heaviness is not uncomfortable anymore. It is simply a sign of mental fatigue, the natural outcome of a day spent using your mind. You do not need to correct it. You do not need to quiet it instantly. You only need to let it finish. Another thought appears, faint and incomplete. It dissolves before it gathers weight. Silence lingers. Slightly longer this time. Your shoulders sink deeper into the mattress. Your jaw relaxes. Further, the body is fully ready for rest. The mind is catching up slowly. The heaviness begins to soften into something slower than thought, something less structured. You may begin to feel that thinking itself requires more energy than you are willing to give tonight. The effort feels unnecessary. Another breath. Another slow exhale. The heaviness spreads gently through your awareness. But now it feels closer to rest than to resistance. And as that tired weight continues settling, as thoughts grow slower and less demanding, you may begin to sense that beneath the heaviness there is something softer waiting, something quieter than thinking, something that does not require effort at all. And as that softness waits patiently beneath the fatigue, you may begin to notice the quiet exhaustion of the mind itself. The heaviness is still there, but now it feels less like weight and more like fatigue. Not sharp, not loud, just quietly worn. Your mind has been active for so long that it does not immediately recognize stillness. Even as your body lies fully at rest, the habit of thinking continues in small, slow movements. It is not racing anymore. It is simply used to moving. You notice this gently. A faint thought rises, not important enough to follow, not urgent enough to act on. Steady. Inhale. Exhale. The exhale stretches slightly longer than the inhale, as though your body is encouraging. Feel tired of thinking, and that tiredness has a softness to it. Another small thought forms, but it feels unfinished. The energy required to fully develop, it seems greater than the energy available. So it fades. The room remains unchanged around you. The air is still. The darkness holds steady. The lamp, if it is on, casts a soft glow that does not shift or flicker. There is nothing new for the mind to process. And yet it continues gently out of routine. You may begin to sense that much of thinking is habit. The mind becomes accustomed to constant movement during the day, solving, planning, remembering. When night arrives, it does not always know how to pause immediately. It keeps moving simply because it has been moving, not because it needs to. Another breath moves through you. Inhale. Exhale. Your chest rises gently beneath the blanket. It falls slowly, evenly. They are isolated and brief, like small sparks that fade quickly in open air. You do not chase them. You do not interrupt them. You simply notice how little energy they carry. The fatigue grows. You acknowledge that constant thinking is exhausting. That awareness itself consumes energy. And tonight, there is very little energy left for effort. A faint memory flickers through awareness. It feels distant, as though it belongs to someone slightly removed from you. It does not demand attention. It dissolves before you can examine it. Silence follows. The silence feels slightly longer than before. Your body sinks a fraction deeper into the mattress. Your shoulders loosen further. Even your breathing becomes quieter, less noticeable. The mind attempts another small movement, but it feels slower than the last. The effort behind it weakens. This is not something you are doing. It is something that is happening. Fatigue is naturally slowing the internal motion. You may notice that thinking tonight feels less precise. Words blur at the edges. Images lack detail. The mind no longer sharpens ideas into clear shapes. It allows them to remain vague. Another breath flows in. Another breath flows out. The pause after the exhale feels wider now. You rest inside that pause without trying to extend it. Mind feels less interested in maintaining continuity. It lets them drift independently, unfinished. The exhaustion is not unpleasant. It feels like the end of a long day of mental work. You have carried enough ideas. Made enough decisions. Considered enough outcomes. There is nothing left to refine tonight. Another faint thought begins to form, but halfway through it loses momentum. The energy required to complete it feels unnecessary. It dissolves gently. The quiet that follows feels softer. More stable. Your breathing anchors everything again. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm is slow and even. The fatigue deepens, but it is a peaceful. It is surrender. The mind begins to accept that it does not need to continue, not because you force it, but because it is tired. You may begin to sense that beneath the surface movement, there is something calmer waiting, something that does not require thinking at all. Another faint fragment appears, too soft to name. It lingers for a moment, then fades. Silence expands slightly. The habit of thinking weakens further. There is no urgency left. No unfinished edge that demands completion. Just soft mental tiredness. Your body remains still and warm. The mattress supports you completely. The room holds steady darkness. Nothing presses against your awareness. Another breath flows through you. The exhale feels longer than the inhale now. The pause stretches. Naturally, you rest in that pause. The mind attempts one more small movement, but it feels like a reflex rather than intention. It flickers faintly and disappears almost immediately. The fatigue has softened into something lighter than effort. The quiet beneath the tiredness becomes more noticeable now. And as that quiet begins to feel more natural than thinking, as the habit of motion weakens gently on its own, you may begin to sense that the unfamiliar silence from earlier no longer feels unfamiliar at all. And as silence begins to feel less strange and more welcoming, you may start to notice how comfortable stillness can actually be. The silence is here now, not complete silence, not absolute stillness, but a wide and steady quiet that stretches around you. The room feels unchanged. The air feels calm. Your body rests heavily against the mattress, breathing slow and even. And yet, the silence feels unfamiliar. Your mind has spent so much time filled with motion that this open space feels strange at first. It does not feel uncomfortable exactly, just new. You notice it gently. Between one breath and the next, there is a pause. Between one faint thought and the next, there is room. The mind hesitates in that room. It searches lightly for something too. Occupy. Another small thought begins to form, but it does not fully commit. It rises halfway, then pauses as if uncertain whether it needs to continue. Your breathing anchors everything again. Inhale. Exhale. The exhale stretches softly into quiet. Silence follows. The mind is not used to this much space. During the day, there is always something to respond to. A sound, a task, a message. a conversation. Even in moments of physical stillness, the mind remains engaged. Now, there is nothing pressing against it. And without pressure, it does not quite know where to focus. You may feel that slight hesitation inside, the subtle urge to find something to think about, not because you want to think, but because thinking has been constant for so long. The habit lingers. Another faint thought flickers through awareness. It does not carry urgency. It feels almost like a reflex. It dissolves quickly. Silence widens again. Your shoulders sink a fraction deeper into the mattress. Your jaw rests loosely. Your hands remain still. The body has already accepted the quiet. The mind is learning how. Another breath flows in. Another breath flows out. The pause afterward feels longer now. In that pause, there is nothing to do, nothing to solve, nothing to rehearse. The mind tests the silence again, gently. It offers a small idea, perhaps something trivial, perhaps something incomplete. It waits to see if you will engage. You do not. The idea fades. The quiet returns. At first, silence can feel empty, like something missing. But as you rest inside it, you begin to notice that it is not empty at all. It is simply unoccupied. Unoccupied by effort. Unoccupied by planning. Unoccupied by analysis. Your breathing continues steadily beneath this awareness. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm feels natural. Grounding. The mind hesitates once more, as if checking whether it truly needs to continue. Thinking. It begins a sentence quietly in your awareness. But the energy required to complete it feels unnecessary. Trails off. Silence remains. You may begin to feel that the unfamiliarity is fading. The space between thoughts no longer feels strange. It feels neutral, even comforting. The room supports this stillness. The darkness does not shift. The air remains calm. There are no interruptions. Your body grows heavier, warmer. The silence begins to feel safe. Another faint fragment drifts by, barely noticeable. It lacks detail. It lacks urgency. It dissolves quickly. The mind seems to realize that there is nothing it must hold on to right now. Nothing to protect, nothing to prepare. The quiet becomes easier to rest inside. Breathing deepens slightly again. The exhale lingers. The pause stretches. You settle further into the mattress, feeling supported completely. The unfamiliarity has softened. What once felt like emptiness now feels like relief. Relief from constant processing. Relief from constant motion. Relief from carrying thoughts forward. Another small idea appears. But it feels distant and unimportant. It does not anchor itself. It floats briefly and disappears. Silence returns more smoothly this time. The mind no longer rushes to fill it. You begin to sense that stillness does not need to be managed. It does not need to be understood. It simply exists. Your breathing continues. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm remains slow and steady. The body feels deeply at rest now. Your legs sink evenly into the mattress. Your neck rests fully supported. Your face remains relaxed. The silence feels natural. Not forced. Not constructed. Simply present. Another breath. Another pause. The mind tests the quiet one final time, offering a faint impression that barely forms. It fades before you can follow it. The space remains open. You rest inside it. And as that silence continues holding you gently, no longer unfamiliar, no longer strange, You may begin to notice how easy it feels to let go of solving anything at all. And as stillness begins to feel like relief rather than absence, you may sense the quiet urge to stop solving and simply rest. The silence no longer feels unfamiliar. It feels open. Wide. Supportive. And inside that openness, you may begin to notice something else quietly present: the habit of solving. All day long, your mind has been searching for answers, small ones, large. The habit lingers. A faint thought appears, carrying the shape of a question. Not urgent, not traumatic, just something that feels slightly unfinished. The mind reaches toward it gently, almost automatically, as if preparing to refine it. You notice this without judgment. Breathing continues. Inhale. Exhale. The exhale stretches softly into quiet. There is no reason to solve anything right now. The room remains steady. The darkness holds its shape. Your shoulders sink deeper. Your jaw relaxes further. The thought that appeared begins to soften at the edges. It does not demand completion. It does not insist on resolution. You allow it to remain unfinished. Another breath flows through you. The pause afterward widens gently. The urge to solve feels lighter than before. It is not gone, but it has weakened. You may begin to sense how much energy solving requires. They pull you slightly forward. Tonight, there is no need to lean forward. There is no need to refine. Another faint thought appears, this one shaped like a plan. It outlines something small about tomorrow. Feels unnecessary. You let it remain loose, unstructured. The thought fades. Silence returns, smoothly. Breathing anchors everything. Again, inhale. Exhale. The rhythm feels even and wide. You begin to feel relief in not deciding anything. Relief in not completing every mental loop. Relief in allowing uncertainty to exist without correction. The body remains deeply at rest. Your legs feel heavy. Your arms feel warm. Your chest rises and falls steadily beneath the blanket. The urge to solve softens further. Another small idea flickers briefly. It carries the faint shape of something that could be improved or adjusted. But it does not feel pressing. You do not reach for it. It dissolves. The mind seems to realize that not every loose end must be tied tonight. Not every question must be answered before sleep. The silence feels steadier. Now. More natural. You rest inside it without effort. Another breath. Another pause. You may notice how different it feels to let a thought remain incomplete, to let it hover without structure, to allow it to fade naturally instead of shaping it into clarity. There is freedom in that. Freedom from constant refinement. Freedom from needing resolution. The mind attempts one more gentle adjustment, perhaps replaying a moment, perhaps refining a sentence, but the motion lacks. Energy. It softens before it can take hold. Breathing continues. Inhale. Exhale. The exhale feels longer than before. The pause stretches comfortably. Your body sinks further into stillness. The room remains quiet. Nothing presses against. Your awareness. The urge to solve grows faint. It feels less necessary with each breath. You begin to sense that the world does not require your mental effort in this moment. It continues quietly without your input. Tomorrow will arrive without rehearsal. Conversations will unfold without pre-adjustment. There is nothing that must be completed tonight. Another faint thought appears, but it feels transparent, light. It carries no demand. It drifts away. Silence expands gently. The mind, once so accustomed to fixing and shaping, now rests in openness. It allows things to remain undefined. Your breathing remains steady and calm. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm feels grounding and safe. You are not neglecting anything by resting. You are not avoiding responsibility by releasing thought. You are simply allowing the day to end. Another pause opens between breaths, longer than the last. You rest inside it easily. The urge to manage everything dissolves into something softer, something closer to surrender than effort. And as that surrender deepens gently, as solving fades into stillness, you may begin to feel the quiet relief of not deciding anything at all. And within that relief, you may begin to notice how peaceful it feels to leave every decision for morning. There is a quiet relief in not deciding all day long. Decisions have shaped your thoughts, small ones, large ones. Choices about what to say, what to do, how to respond, what to prioritize. Even when they felt minor, they required attention. Now, in the dark, there is nothing asking for choice. And slowly, you begin to feel how gentle that is. A faint thought appears, carrying the shape of a decision. Something you might finalize. Something you might adjust. It hovers lightly, as if waiting for your input. You do not rush toward it. Your breathing remains steady. Inhale. Exhale. The exhale softens into a wide pause. There is no reason to conclude anything right now. The mattress supports you completely. Your shoulders sink deeper. Your hands rest loosely at your sides. The air remains still and unchanged. The thought lingers for a moment longer, then fades without resolution. And nothing collapses because of that. The world continues quietly without. Your final answer. Another breath flows, and another breath flows out. The rhythm feels grounding and slow. You may begin to notice how much tension decisions create. Even small conclusions tighten the mind slightly. They require certainty. They demand clarity. Tonight, there is no need for certainty. There is only rest. Another faint idea drifts into awareness, perhaps about tomorrow, perhaps about something that could be improved. It carries a subtle pressure, like a gentle question mark. You allow it to remain unanswered. The pressure weakens. Immediately. The silence returns more easily this time. Breathing anchors you again. Inhale. Exhale. The pause. Between breaths widens. You feel how peaceful it is to leave things incomplete, to allow tomorrow to handle tomorrow, to trust that clarity does not need to arrive in the dark. Your body grows heavier. Your legs sink evenly into the mattress. Your jaw loosens further. The thought that once asked for resolution now feels distant, almost irrelevant. Another breath. Another. Pause. The relief deepens. You begin to sense that uncertainty itself is not dangerous. It does not demand immediate correction. It does not create harm by existing. Uncertainty can rest beside you quietly. Another small question surfaces, this one softer than the last. It tries to form into something that needs deciding. But halfway through, it loses momentum. It dissolves. Without effort. Silence follows. The room remains steady. The darkness holds its shape. Nothing presses against your awareness. You may begin to feel a subtle shift inside, the release of pressure you did not realize you were carrying. The pressure to conclude, to refine, to finalize. Tonight, nothing needs to be finished. Your breathing continues. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm feels natural and slow. The mind feels lighter without the weight of decisions. Another faint idea appears, but it feels optional, like something that can wait indefinitely. It no longer carries urgency. You let it drift away. The relief grows softer and deeper. Your body feels warm and grounded. The blanket rests gently against your chest. The air feels calm and undisturbed. There is no ticking clock here. No deadline. No requirement to reach. Clarity before sleep. Another breath. Another wide pause. The silence between thoughts becomes more stable now, more consistent. Decisions no longer attempt to form. They remain faint and unfinished, and that feels safe. You begin to sense that the mind does not need constant closure. It does not need to complete every circle before resting. It can leave things open without harm. The world does not collapse when you pause. The day does not unravel because you release it. Another breath flows slowly through you. The exhale lingers longer than before. The pause stretches comfortably. The relief deepens into something softer than effort. You feel less responsible for holding everything together. Less responsible for shaping outcomes. Less responsible for solving the future before it arrives. The mind grows quieter. Not because you forced it, but because it no longer carries the burden of deciding. Another faint fragment drifts by, too light to hold. It fades. Silence settles more fully now. Breathing remains steady. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm feels smooth and unbroken. You rest inside that rhythm, free from conclusion, free from finality. And as that freedom continues gently expanding, as uncertainty feels more like peace than pressure, you may begin to notice how thoughts themselves start to loosen their grip, drifting past without pulling you along at all. And as that gentle freedom settles deeper, thoughts begin to feel less solid, less insistent, and easier to release entirely. The relief of not deciding has settled gently into your body. Nothing needs shaping. Nothing needs finishing. The pressure that once asked you to refine each idea has softened into something quieter. And now you begin to notice how thoughts themselves feel different. They still appear, but they no longer grip you. A faint idea rises in the background of your awareness. It hovers briefly, as though testing whether it will be followed. You do not reach for it. Your breathing remains steady. Inhale. Exhale. The exhale stretches into a slow and comfortable pause. The idea fades without resistance. You may begin to sense that thoughts do not disappear entirely. They simply lose their hold. They drift through like clouds, passing across a dark sky, visible but not anchored. Your body rests fully against the mattress. The weight feels even and secure. Your shoulders are relaxed. Your hands remain open and still. Another thought appears lighter than before. It carries no urgency. It does not ask to be solved or improved. It passes. The mind feels less attached to continuity now. It no longer insists on connecting one thought to the next. Ideas appear separately, loosely, without forming chains. Breath anchors everything. Inhale. Exhale. Pause between breaths widens gently. The room remains unchanged. The darkness holds steady. The air feels calm and quiet. Another faint fragment drifts by, a memory perhaps, or the edge of a plan, but it lacks clarity. It feels almost transparent. You let it move without engaging. It dissolves. There is no effort required to release it. The grip has loosened. Earlier, each thought felt heavier. It carried weight. It demanded attention. Now thoughts feel optional. They do not insist on being completed. You begin to notice the difference between a thought appearing and you following it. The appearance is automatic. The following is optional. Tonight, you choose not to follow. Another breath flows slowly through. The exhale feels longer than the inhale. The pause opens wider. In that pause, there is no thinking at all. Only quiet. Your body sinks slightly deeper into stillness. The mattress supports you completely. The blanket rests softly across your chest. The mind attempts another small movement, this one even softer than the last. It barely forms before losing energy. It drifts away. The silence that follows feels more stable now, more natural. You are no longer trying to quiet your thoughts. You are simply allowing them to lose interest in holding you. Breathing continues. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm remains slow and even. Another faint impression flickers through awareness. It feels distant and unfinished, like a word spoken to, quietly to hear. You do not lean toward it. It fades on its own. The grip weakens further. Thoughts begin to feel like background noise rather than central activity. They move quietly somewhere beneath your awareness, but they no longer rise with clarity. You may begin to sense that thinking itself requires more energy than is available now. And without energy, it softens naturally. Another breath, another pause. Your jaw relaxes further. Your face feels smooth and calm. Your body feels warm and grounded. The mind drifts lightly without structure. A final faint idea tries to surface, but it feels too fragile to hold. It dissolves before you can examine it. Silence expands again. The grip is nearly gone. Thoughts no longer pull you forward. They no longer carry weight. They pass quietly, like distant sounds fading into the night. Breath anchors everything once more. Inhale. Exhale. The pause lingers. You rest inside that pause without effort. The difference between thinking and not thinking becomes less noticeable now. Thoughts may still flicker faintly, but they do not define your awareness. They are softer than before. Lighter. Almost dreamlike. The room remains steady around you. Nothing changes. Nothing demands your attention. The body remains deeply at rest. Mind floats gently without direction. And as that floating continues, as thoughts lose the last of their grip and dissolve into softer impressions, you may begin to feel the slow and gentle collapse of thinking itself into something even quieter. Then thought, and as that quiet deepens, the last traces of mental effort begin to soften into a steady and effortless rest. The effort is almost gone. Now what once felt heavy is thinned into something softer than weight. What once required attention now barely registers. The mind is no longer holding itself upright. It is gently collapsing into rest. Not abruptly. Not dramatically. Just slowly. Your breathing continues its steady rhythm. Beneath everything. Inhale. Exhale. The exhale lingers longer than before. The pause afterward feels wide and unoccupied. Your body is fully surrendered. The mattress holds you evenly. Your shoulders have no tension left. Your legs feel warm and still. Even your hands rest loosely, fingers slightly curled without intention. The body has stopped trying, and now the mind follows. A faint impression appears, so soft it almost escapes notice. It does not carry meaning. It does not ask to be interpreted. It simply flickers and fades. You do not move toward it. You remain resting beneath it. The collapse into rest is subtle. It feels like the slow lowering of something that has been held upright for too long. There is no resistance left. Breathing anchors you again. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm blends seamlessly into quiet. Another faint fragment drifts into awareness, but it feels more like a dream beginning than a thought forming. Its edges are blurred, its shape incomplete. It dissolves without effort. The distinction between thinking and dreaming grows thinner. Now, awareness itself feels softer, less defined, as though the boundaries of your focus are widening and fading at the same time. The night remains steady. Around you, the air does not shift. The darkness does not change. Everything external remains quiet and still. Internally, the final structures of thinking are loosening. You may notice how little energy is required now to remain here. You are not holding your awareness together. You are not maintaining clarity. You are simply resting. Another breath flows through you. The exhale stretches into a long, comfortable pause. Time feels less structured. Moments do not feel separate from each other. They blend. The mind no longer tries to organize experience into sentences or images. Instead, it drifts through impressions that carry no urgency. A soft shape appears, perhaps a shadow, perhaps a color, but it does not become concrete. It fades as quickly as it came. Your body remains completely still. The mattress supports every part of you. The blanket rests lightly across your chest. Breath continues. Inhale. Exhale. The pause widens further. The collapse into rest deepens. You no longer feel tired of thinking. You no longer feel the weight of thoughts. You feel something lighter, something open. Another faint flicker drifts past. Too soft to name. It does not anchor itself. It dissolves into quiet. The mind is no longer directing anything. It is no longer shaping anything. It is simply softening. The difference between awareness and sleep feels almost invisible now. There is no clear boundary, only a gradual shift towards something less structured. Breathing continues steadily. Inhale. Exhale. Your chest rises gently. Your chest falls. The rhythm is automatic and calm. You may notice that it feels difficult to hold on to. A single thought now. Even if you tried, it would slip away before you could complete it. But you do not try. You allow the softness to expand. The collapse is complete. There is no effort left to release. No effort left to manage. Only steady breathing and quiet. A final, faint impression appears, almost like the echo of a thought that never fully formed. It fades into something wider than silence. And as that wide and gentle quiet continues settling around you, you may begin to sense that what remains is no longer thinking at all, but something even softer, even quieter, waiting patiently to carry you the rest of the way. And within that softened awareness, the last trace of mental effort dissolves into the comfort of finally letting go. There is nothing left to release. The effort has already softened. The weight has already dissolved. The urge to solve, decide, refine, or hold anything in place has faded quietly into the background. What remains is simple. Breathing. Warmth. Stillness. You lie there, supported completely by the mattress beneath you. Your body no longer feels separate from it. Your shoulders rest without tension. Your hands remain open and loose. Your face is smooth and calm. The night does not ask anything from you now. It simply holds. You. Inhale. Exhale. The exhale stretches gently into a long and effortless pause. You do not measure it. You do not extend it. It simply exists. Thoughts are no longer structured. They do not form into sentences or plans. They appear as faint impressions, barely noticeable, and dissolve before they can gather meaning. A soft image flickers at the edge of awareness, blurred, incomplete. It feels more like the beginning of a dream than a conscious thought. It fades. Silence expands naturally. The comfort of letting go does not arrive dramatically. It arrives gradually, like darkness deepening after sunset. There is no clear moment when you decide to stop thinking. It simply happens. Breathing continues. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm feels smooth and steady. The pause widens again. Your body feels warm and grounded, but also lighter than before, as if gravity has softened its hold, as if the weight of the day has completely lifted. There is nothing unfinished pressing against your awareness. Nothing waiting to be concluded, nothing asking to be carried forward. The mind has stopped working, not because it was forced, but because it no longer needs to. Another faint impression drifts by, too soft to identify. It does not anchor itself. It dissolves into something wider than silence. The room remains unchanged, but it feels distant now. The sense of walls and ceiling and space fades into the background of awareness. What remains is softness. Breath. Warmth. The comfort of no longer holding anything together. Inhale. Exhale. The pause stretches even longer now. Time feels unstructured. Moments blend together without edges. You are not waiting for sleep. You are not noticing its arrival. You are simply resting. Another faint flicker appears, perhaps a color, perhaps a shadow. It carries no story. It drifts gently and disappears. There is no effort left to release. The letting go has already happened. You may begin to notice that awareness itself feels thinner, lighter, as if the boundaries of your focus are dissolving into something open and undefined. Breathing remains steady. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm is automatic and calm. The comfort deepens. There is no need to hold on to clarity, no need to remain fully present. The night carries you without asking for attention. Thoughts no longer attempt to rise. They are softer than whispers, softer than images. They do not gather weight. They do not form structure. They simply pass, unnoticed. The mattress supports you fully. The blanket rests gently across your chest. The air feels still and undisturbed. You feel safe. You feel supported. You feel free from effort. Another breath flows through you. The exhale lingers gently. The pause afterward feels wide and infinite. The difference between waking and dreaming becomes almost invisible now. There is no sharp transition, only a gradual thinning of awareness. A final faint impression appears, so soft it barely registers. It fades into quiet without leaving a trace. The comfort of letting go settles completely. There is no responsibility here. No pressure. No need to manage anything. The world continues quietly without your guidance. Tomorrow waits without requiring. Rehearsal. Everything is suspended in stillness. Breathing continues. Inhale. Exhale. The pause opens wide once more. You rest inside it. There is nothing left to release, nothing left to soften, nothing left to finish. Only this steady, effortless quiet. The night carries you gently, without urgency, without direction, without demand. And as awareness continues dissolving into that soft and open stillness, As breath blends into warmth, and warmth blends into quiet, you drift gently into the comfort of no longer thinking at all.